Hello and welcome to the GEM Tutoring Center's video on converting fractions to decimals. In this video, we're going to go through several examples of fractions and divide them using the division technique that we learn in school, which is this way. So let's start with the first example. Let's take something that we know right off the bat. We know actually 1/2 is 0.5, but that's okay. We're gonna show that it is 0.5 using the ways that we know for dividing. So this, which is 1 divided by 2, can be written as 1 here and 2 here. So we're dividing 1 by 2. So the first thing that we do is we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 1? The answer is 0. So we put a 0 here, and we subtract, and we go like this. So because there's a 0, what we need to do is put a decimal here and a decimal here. Okay, and we add a 0 here. And we bring this 0 down here. And then we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 10? And the answer is 5. So we have 10 here and 0 here. Okay, so the answer is 0.5. So that was it. All we needed to do was use what we know about decimals to find uh, the result, the quotient. So let's look at another example. 3/4. 3/4 is 3 divided by 4. So we're just going to put a 3 here and 4 on the outside. And we ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 3? The answer is 0. So we put a 0 here, and we still get 3. So at this point, we need to put a decimal here, and a decimal here, and a 0 here. And we bring this 0 down. Okay, so we get a 30 on the bottom. Then we ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 30? The answer is 7. We get 28. Okay, and 30 minus 28 is 2. How many times does 4 go into 2? Well, we can't do that. We actually need to bring down decimal. So it's 20. And that goes in, 4 goes into 25 times. Okay, so we're left with this. So we get 0.75, and we know that. 3 divided by 4 is 0.75, 1/2 is 0.5, and 4 over 4 is 1. So this matches with what we know. Okay, let's go to another example. This one is a little bit trickier. It's doing 3 divided by 8. Okay, so 3 divided by 8. Well, 8 goes into 3 0 times, so I put a 0 there. Hold on. Let's ignore this decimal. It's not time for the decimal yet. Okay, so 0, 8 goes into 3 0 times. Then 3 minus 0 is still 3. Okay, so now we need to put the decimal, and the decimal, and the 0, and we bring down the 0, and we get 30 here. Now 8 goes into 30 3 times. Okay, so 24. If it was 8 times 4, it would be 32. So it has to be 8 times 3, which is 24. Okay, minus, so we get 6 here. All right, and how many times? So we also need to bring down another 0. Okay, so how many times does 8 go into 60? The answer is 7. So it's 56. Okay, and we get 4 down here. And we bring another 0 down, okay, and 8 goes into 45 times. And that completes this example. So the answer, 3 divided by 8, is 0.375. Okay, now let's do the one that can trip people up sometimes, which is 1 divided by 3. So let's write it over here where we have more space. 1 divided by 3. How many times does 3 go into 1? 0. So we put a 0 here, and we get a 1 again. So we need to put a decimal, and a 0. So we get 10. Now how many times does 3 go into 10? Well, 3 times. Sorry, that doesn't look very good. 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. So we get 1, and we have another 0. We bring that down, and again, 3 goes into 10 3 times. 9, 1. So we bring down another 0. Again, 3 goes into 10 3 times, so it's another 3 there. So 9, 1. So this keeps going forever. And we end up getting 3.333333 something. Actually, not something. It keeps going on forever with 3's. So one way that we write this is 0.3 with a bar on top. The bar means that this 3 repeats. Okay, the 3 repeats forever. Okay? All right, let's go to the next example, which is 2/9. Now, how would we divide 2 by 9? Well, let's write it. 2 divided by 9. 9 goes into 2. Hold on, I did it again. 9 goes into 2 0 times, so we put a 0 there. And this becomes a 0, this becomes a 2, okay? Then we put a decimal, a 0, bring it down, we get 20. And then we ask ourselves, how many times does 9 go into 20? And the answer is 2. Okay, so it's 18, and we get 2. Okay, and then there's another 0 that comes down, and 20. Okay, and 2 times 9 is 18, so that works this way. And again, a 0 comes down. So this keeps going on forever, and the answer that we get is actually 0.2 bar, because this 2 repeats constantly. So we put a bar over it. Okay, now let's do one last example, and then we'll wrap up this video. 9 divided by 7. So this is an improper fraction, right? So we expect that since it's 9 over 7th, this is actually the same as 1 and 2/7, right? So we expect our decimal to be 1 point something something something, whatever it is. So let's see how that works. So 9 divided by 7, okay? 7 goes into 9 one time. So we get this. So that's our 1. And 7 cannot go into 2, so we put a decimal, 0. We bring down this 0, and we have 20. 2 times 7 is 14, so we put in 2 there and a 14 here. We get 6. Okay. And we bring down this 0, and 7 times 8 is 56, so we keep going. So this becomes a 4 and a 0. Okay. 7 times 5 is 35. So we've got a 35 here and a 5 here. And then we have to bring down another 0. So as you can see, this actually goes on for a long time. And it's not necessarily, it may repeat, it may not repeat. The point being here that this goes on for a while. It may actually repeat, but I'm not going to keep going because it will take too much time. But this is how. And usually when we make decimals out of fractions, meaning when we convert fractions to decimals, we usually go to the first 3 decimal places. Okay, so that's what these are. And we usually round off the next one. So what I mean by that is this 50 is here, right? So 7 times 7 is 49. And then we keep going, and you bring down another 0 from here. That's how that 0 got there. So since this is a 7, we would actually round this up, and we would do 1.286. 1.286. So this is what the answer would be. So you would solve to 4 decimal places, and then round the third decimal place as needed. And since this is a 7, this will round up to 6. So we'll get 1.286. So we will generally solve to 3 decimal places. Now, unless your teacher says, okay, solve to the 5 decimal places, then you would solve to 5. But generally, if nobody says anything about how far you need to go, we solve to 3 decimal places. Okay, that concludes this video, and we're going to wrap up here. Please check out our videos and subscribe if you're interested, and looking forward to making more videos. Thanks.